guys, it's Becky, and I am going to make a Longhorn set of jewelry. When I opened up this Howdy 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 bead mix from Jesse James Beads, the Magical Mystery Bead Box, I had mentioned these charms and the orange that was in the box, and how these would be great to make as Longhorn jewelry. I live in Austin, but I did not attend the University of Texas. I know a lot of people who did, though, and so I'm gonna make some Longhorn jewelry with some of these beads from that mix, and we're gonna just do that today with our stuff. What I've got is I'm going to use this as a bracelet. I'm going to use this as kind of a central charm on a bracelet with some of these orange beads. I'm going to use all of these orange glass ducks. I am going to use these two oval crystal beads. I'm going to be using these yellow roses because Yellow Rose of Texas. And then I've got a couple of these cream beads as well to kind of fill in the spaces because the colors are like a dusty orange and white for that school. I'm also going to be using this white quartz color Softflex wire for beading and stringing it. And then for the earrings that I'm going to make to go with this, oh hello, that just went everywhere. That's fine. I've got the smaller Longhorn charm, more of the white quartz wire, and I'll show you how to make this like figure eight with a loop inside design with the Softflex wire. And then I've got some of these clearer like white beads in between, and I made a little drop with one of these drops on here. And since I haven't strung the bracelet yet, I've got a couple of extra orange beads that I can grab and use if I need to lengthen my bracelet to make it longer. So we're gonna just string it along, see how it goes, and see if it fits. Although I think I'm going to be doing 2 strands, like kind of weaving in and out with this from the beginning to the end. Now both of these clasps were in the bead box. Basically all I'm adding are ear wires, the beading wire, and a jump ring or 2 for this. Everything else came in the bead box. Oh yeah, and some 2x2 crimp tubes. And I'm using this. These are also the Softflex crimp tubes. I really like them. They're some of the best crimp tubes that I'm using. For tools, I'm going to be using the Magical Crimper with my crimp tubes. I am not good at other regular crimps. I'm just not good at them. But I am good at magical crimpers, so that's why I like to use them so much. I've got some flush cutters for cutting my wire, and I've got some pliers for opening and closing jump rings, and yeah, if I need to fiddle around with anything else while I'm doing this. But for the most part, I'm just going to be stringing, and I've got them laid out kind of in the pattern that I want to use. So you can see here where I've got like my drugs basically separating my different elements within the bracelet. And we'll go ahead and get that on there. I don't think I'm going to be using a jump ring for this, but I might. I've got some jump rings up here that I can reach for if I need to. And so I'm going to move a few of these things out of the way. I'm going to get like twice as much wire as I think I might need. Yeah, that's probably going to be enough. Let's go ahead and cut that. I've already got my earring wire cut because I cut it at the same time as I cut the wire for my example earring that I did, which I'm quite proud of. I like the way that looks. But I'll show you how to make that at the end of this after we're done with the bracelet. So let's go ahead and get this started. I am going to drop this clasp right down to the bottom of this wire. I've got both ends in front of me. I'm going to drop that all the way down to the bottom there. And then I am going to put a crimp. I'm going to put both ends of my wire through that crimp and drop that down. Leave myself a little loop-de-loop so this can move around. And crimp my crimp bead. Like I said, I'm not good at other crimps, but I am pretty good, and I'm just making sure my wires aren't crossed. I am pretty good at doing the magical crimper. Basically, you flatten it out, and then as you rotate it, it just pushes the corners down, just flattens them all out so that you have a nice round bead on the end. All right, now I think what we're going to do is we're just going to put one of these orange beads, one of these strands through the orange beads, like that. And then we're going to stick our other beads through on both strands so that it goes through. Oh, where's my hole? There it is. So that it brings it together a little bit more. And that just gives us some space between the beads too, and it lets the white wire show. All right, and it looks like I'm going to put this on this strand. I'm trying to do it on like the alternate strand from what that is. But I mean, they might twist inside the beads. You don't know. All right, so now we do the rose. Two strands, two strands. There we go. Two strands. And now this one. Because I want that white to be part of this, invisible. All right, and now both of these, and this is, I think, is probably the closest to the dusty orange that that you have for that. And this is gonna be about halfway around. Let me see, I might need to move these a little bit closer. There we go. So we can fit this on there. And now, one of these guys. All right. I'm going to take these through the hole in opposite directions. So this one comes from front to back. This one's going to go back to front. Like that. And now I can put my orange bead on here. Put my next bead through. And that way I can have my longhorn charm dangling. Right there in the middle of my bracelet. All right, both strands through the large oval. Single strand for the orange bead. Like, maybe this colorway reminds you of creamsicles. Maybe it reminds me of creamsicles. I don't know. maybe I would like a creamsicle. I'm not normally an orange guy. Just putting it out there. Since I started designing jewelry, I have developed a new appreciation for the color orange. I like it so far. All right, now. I'm just trying to get these on the opposite strand of the one that they were on previously. Each time I do one of these. And they do kind of crisscross in between in each of these beads, but you know, there we go. All right, one more. And then we are going to see if this is long enough. Let me pull it around. Oh, for sure. Let me squish these guys up against each other a little bit more, because I think it might be too long. That's one of the beauties of doing this type of bracelet, is that you can adjust it. You can either spread out the distance between each of these beads, or you can squish them closer together and adjust your length before you attach your last clasp. And I think that is going to be the perfect length. So let's go ahead. Good job, me. I did some really good planning with this. All right, let's get our crimp bead in place right here. And then I'm going to take one of these strands and pass it through this toggle. And then pass that back through the crimp bead. So I have 3 strands going through this crimp. 2 to finish the, I want to move that the right way. There we go. All right, I'm going to make sure I can close it. This does not swing very freely. That's fine. Okay. It's going to be a little bit loose, and I'm okay with that. All right. Means I don't have to be too particular about how tight I'm doing this, or not tight, or how big my loop is, although I would kind of like my loop to match the other side. All right. Now I'm going to crimp right there. And it's nice and round. And I've got some excess wire that I need to trim away. This is enough to make another earring with, which I can probably do at a future date. I always save like my extra bits of wire, even the short ones, because extra short wires can go in to help beef up how much wire there is for your crimp. But the short ones that are a little bit longer, but also short, like this length, are perfect for earrings. They are really great for that. Speaking of earrings, what a good segue, I say. You know what would have been really cool is a little longhorn clasp. The longhorn shape would be really great for a clasp. There we go. Longhorn bracelet. All right, I'm going to set this guy aside, and we're going to pull out our project for our earrings that go with our bracelet for our set, a little set that goes together. So I've got more of the the Softflex, the white quartz Softflex. And I've got my beads and my charm. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just string my beads on. Oh, nope. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to get my drop here on a head pin. That's the first thing I'm going to do, because it would be really useless for me to string my beads if I don't have my drop ready to go. So I'm using a ball head pin. It's just a fairly short but long enough that I can make a loop and then wrap the loop at the top. It's going to be a little bit fiddly because it's not a super long ball head pin. But that's okay, because you guys love watching me futz around with things, don't you? All right. I like to tell myself that. Make this a little bit easier on myself, I am going to grab my pliers for this. Oh, we're using round nose pliers for making our loop. I forgot to mention that because I forgot that I was doing a drop as part of my thing. I'm sorry that I forget things, but if you've been around long enough, you know that the subtitle of this channel is Becky Forgets Things. Yep, fiddly. There you go. I think it might be wrapped enough. I think that's wrapped enough. I'm gonna cut off my excess. I'm gonna call that wrapped enough. Maybe I'll just tuck this little edge in just a little bit. A drop. All right, now that I've got the drop, now we can start stringing that. So I'm just going to take this piece of wire, and it's about 6 inches. You could probably do 5, maybe 4.5, not anything shorter than 4, though, because there's going to be a lot of looping back on itself when we get to this part of the project. So you will have some excess, and that's just going to have to be okay. All right, so I'm just stringing these on. I'm doing orange, white. It's not really white, it's more like an off-white, but sort of semi-transparent. It's like a matte, glassy texture to it. I like it. Now the drop, and then orange, white, orange. Like, you can literally wear these to a football game and nobody will blink at you. Funny. They are not official merch. Please don't sue me, University of Texas. I'm not selling them. I'm just showing people how to make them. And I will probably end up giving them to a friend. All right, so now I've got my crimp bead on one strand. Let's get closer, actually, so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. So now that I've got this stranded on here, I've got both of my strands, and I've got my crimp bead going in one direction from right to left. So on my other strand of wire, the other end of this same strand actually, I'm going to go in the other direction. And I'm gonna drop my wire while I'm on camera so that my beads go everywhere. Let me start that over again. All right. Bloop. Bloop. Now, I don't know that a bead stopper would help with this, since what I'm doing isn't necessarily, since I want the end of my wire to actually be free enough to put that on there. So let's get back to where we were going before. I've got my crimp bead on. I've got my bead strung. I'm going to have the other end of the wire go through the crimp bead in the opposite direction, so it forms a circle. Like this. This is going to be the fun part because I'm going to have to adjust this so that it matches the size of the other earring, and I think that's about right. All right, so now that I've got this crimp bead going this way, I want to bend this end of my wire through and have it go back through in the same direction that this original wire is going through to make another circle, like so. All right, I'm not going to worry about matching size until I've got the other one through. Now this top one, because this one's the lower one, this one's the top one, and they might switch sides before I'm done. I'm going to do the same thing. See how the wire is going this direction? I'm going to bend this back and have that wire go back through the crimp bead in that same direction. And now what we're going to end up with is about 5 strands of this wire going through this crimp bead. And it works really great with the silver ones. The copper ones have kind of thicker walls, so it's harder to fit as many strands of the Softflex through. So I don't know if this would work with the copper crimp beads as well as it does with these. Now with the size of these loops, I used the magical crimper to make sure that I would have enough clearance when I went around, that the loop would fit, so that I wouldn't be getting it caught or having any issues when I was going around. It still is a little bit on the mangled side, but I'm going to chalk that up to me maybe doing this thing for the first time on this one. I'm hoping it looks a lot better on this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adjusting my wires so that I get everything about the same size. And I'm starting with this one to get my largest loop about the same size. Now I'm going to pull this to make this top loop about the same size as this one. Then this one, I'm going to pull on this end until we get a loop that is about the same size as the original. That's a little too small. So I'm going to pull on the loop. I'm going to use my tweezers for that, actually, my tweezer nose pliers. All right, so both of those loops are about the same size. They are, this one's just a little bit bigger than that one. There we go. I got my loops the same size. Check it out. All right, so now is the tricky part where I try to magical crimper this in the way. So I'm going to squeeze it flat first of all, and then I'm going to rotate it around a couple of times. Here's where having that room to rotate around and through these loops comes in handy. And I'm going to call that, giving a little tug, I'm going to call that crimped. Now I can do the very, very, very careful snipping of my excess wire. The first time I did this, by the way, I snipped the wrong wire. Like today. The first time I did this today. All right. So now I've got my loop with a figure 8 in the middle. And I've got a little place that I can hang my dangly longhorn charm from. Look at the way it dangles. You get some jangle in your dangle. All right. Stick you over there. Now I'm going to grab my jump ring. We are going to open and close it. just going to use, because there's this flat end here, it works really great for holding my jump ring while I twist it open like that. Now, let's all say yeehaw for my first project from the Howdy 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 Jesse James Beads Magical Mystery Bead Box. So I got my 2 longhorn earrings, and I got my longhorn bracelet, and I had a really fun time making these. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Talk to you later. Bye.